Welcome everyone to Current Affairs by Civil 360 IS Academy. In this session, we will be discussing about the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act, which was an amendment to the original 2019 Act, which was introduced recently by the Ministry of Social Justice, right? So it was this 2026 amendment, and it is in news because of the various changes it has brought into the 2019 Act. So if you look at the history and all, it was in 2014 NALSA versus Union of India case where Supreme Court upheld that the right to sexual orientation is part of Article 21, right? So to live a life with dignity, you need the right to sexual orientation. That is, you need the right to choose whether you are a male, female or a transgender. So that transgender became a third gender, officially was recognized by Supreme Court under the NALSA versus Union of India in 2014. And consequent to that, in 2019, the government passed the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act, which was in consonance with the original 2014 judgment. So, but the 2026 Act has been in news because of the various issues it has actually, or various changes it has actually brought up. So, the first issue is regarding the definition of who is actually a transgender person, right? So, the original 2019 Act actually provided for self-identification. So in the 2019 Act, simply a person who can identify himself by an affidavit, a self-affidavit, then that person can be considered or will be considered as a transgender as per the 2019 Act. So the definition of the 2019 Act is provided here. You can see that transgender person is someone whose gender does not match with the gender assigned at birth. So it allows for an inclusive definition. It includes a lot of people, alright? So it includes trans men, trans women, bisexual categories as well, and sex reassignment surgery, it is not actually a factor. The only thing is that that person's gender does not match the original gender that was assigned at birth. That's the only definition, and it includes other aspects, like for example intersex variations. Intersex variations are actually referring to biological definition, that is biological. It includes 5 categories of people who will be considered transgender. It is based on biology, right? Then you have social identity, social identity. So the 2019 Act actually gave an inclusive definition where there was a self-identification that was in consonance with the 2014 idea, right? So if that person wants to be or identifies himself or that person as a transgender, then that person will be treated as a transgender under the 2019 Act. Then biological definition was also there as well as social definitions there. But if you look at 2026, this part has been omitted, right? Whose gender does not match with this gender assigned at birth. So that takes away that self-identification aspect. So that right to sexual orientation itself is actually being impacted. So that is why it is in news, because they are actually arguing that it is violating the ratio of the NALSA versus Union of India, right? So, but it includes the other identities, the social aspect as well as the biological definitions also were included. So, but the original self-identification aspect has been removed. The second issue is regarding who is the authority to actually give that certificate. So earlier it was the district magistrate. So the district magistrate will issue a certificate based on self-declared affidavit. That is a key point, without any physical or medical examination. So there is no need for a physical or medical examination. That only a self-declaration affidavit is enough under the 2019 Act. But in the 2026 Act, the district magistrate has to examine. So an additional concern has been raised. So people are arguing that this not only violates that freedom to choose your sexual orientation, it also impacts privacy. That is also part of Article 21. So concerns were raised regarding its impact on privacy as well. It may lead to harassment as well, concerns like that. So examine the recommendation as per the medical board, and if deemed necessary, after consulting medical experts. So a lot of power is given to the district magistrate to issue that transgender certificate. Okay, the third issue is regarding the procedure. Okay, like for example, if a transgender person wants to update their transgender certificate after a sex reassignment surgery, then they have a choice. Okay, it is not mandatory after a sex reassignment surgery that you have to mandatorily update your transgender certificate. So that such a mandate was not there under the 2019 Act. Okay, so there was no legal obligation. But under the 2026 Act, now it is mandatory, okay, to apply for a revised gender certificate. Okay. Okay, and the last issue people have raised is that the criminalization aspect. So if you look at the overall language of the 2026 Act, you can see that it is treating the transgender persons, or those people who are actually who's actually identifying themselves as transgender. The law is viewing them with suspicion. That is, the law is assuming that that is a result of a criminal activity, or they are actually a product or a result of a criminal circle. Okay, so if you look at the offenses, like for example, it says that the offense of kidnapping and causing grievance by emasculation hormonal procedure. So it is saying that transgender is not something that occurs naturally. It is something that is a result of some sort of act, okay, mostly a criminal act. So that is the overall idea taken by the act. So the people are saying that this will lead to criminalization. Okay, that is, transgenders will be seen as criminals, because the law is saying that the transgender, the idea is not a natural thing. It's actually a result of some criminal or somebody compelled. Okay, it is somebody compelling the other people to become transgender. So that is the overall language of the new offences inserted by the 2026 Act. So that is also another cause of challenge. Okay, so that causing, so that is one offence. The second offence is the use of force, undue influence to compel someone to present as transgender and employing them for begging, forced labor, etc. Okay, so that's the overall language of the Act as well. Okay, so that was one of the issues that was raised regarding the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Amendment Act of 2026. So this, if you look at your syllabus in GS2 in social justice, vulnerable section is there. Transgender is part of that group, right? They are vulnerable section because they face a lot of challenges in the society. And even though 2014 judiciary and the 2019 Act were progressive steps, 2026 steps seems to be a contradictory step in the overall scheme of things. So anyway, that is about the Act, and that's all in the session. Please use this information effectively for your GS2 as well as for the prelims. Just understand the provisions of the Act as well. Okay, so that's all in this session. Thank you.